You're welcome to today's class. Today is the third week from our agenda, and we'll be looking at repeating tasks and making a conditional statement, that is making decision with Python programming language today. As you can see on the screen, we have these two important topics to treat today, and it's on definite loop and conditional statement. Definite loop, the word definite there means it's a loop that has to stop based on particular condition. So it's not an infinite loop that will just continue. If you have an infinite loop, you can crash your system. So because it has no condition for it to stop. So this one is definite loop. It has to stop at a particular condition. So the learning goal is that we have to, at the end of this lesson, we should be able to create a loop, a for loop, and use it to repeat a section of code several times, as much as we want it. Then we will, and also else if statements and else statements to make decisions in your programs. 3, we'll be able to explain how value can be compared using comparison operators. So these are the things we are going to be doing today. Now, as an introduction, let me introduce the for loop. Let me create a variable of cities. Cities. Yes, last week we talked about list, so I will be using list. So if you missed last week tutorial, you can check it on YouTube. It's there. So I will be using list for what I want to do now. And in this list, I want list of cities. Maybe I have Ikeja. I have Ibadan. You can have list of, as a list, it's just a connection of data that are a bit related. So I have, we can add, we have here Abuja. Let's add, we have Lagos. Let me just ask that. So now this is a variable called cities. So let me connect to the server so that it can process it for me. Okay. Yes. So I've declared my variable now. I want to insert another code pen. So if I say it should print cities for me, it should be able to. So I have my list. I want to loop through this list just to create a simple repetition. Now, repetition using for loop enable you to loop through some certain connections of data and perform some tasks over them. So, and that's what we'll be doing now. Let me add another code pen. First thing first, how do we declare a for loop? You can declare a for loop using this statement. For, following your for is the condition. or an expression. Let me use an expression here. Expression. So after the expression is a colon like this. Then anything after the expression, you see an indentation will be introduced automatically to tell you that whatever code you are writing after the first line is in the block of that for loop. So that means anytime Python compiler is running this code, everything in that block will be run with the for loop. You will understand now. Now, let note this. What is an expression? I have a variable declared above. I can say for city in cities, for cities in cities, or let me not go here now. I will still come back here later. Let me say for I in length I hope we didn't forget this function length. I want to get the length of my cities. Length of my cities. So for I in length of cities, and the length of cities here should be 4. So I want it to print my I. Let's see what we have. Print I. Now let's run it. As you see, 0, 1 run. Oh, I have an error. Let me look at the type of error. Say type error for high in length of city. Okay. And let me declare it as range. Okay. I'll explain later. Now you can see a loop through the length of this array, and he prints this statement as is looping. So you see now, he looped 4 times. Looking at these statements, what computer will do is it will look at this first expression, say, oh, okay, for I in range is just like declaring a connection. I will still come back to it later. And the range now is the length of the city, which is 4. So I can simply say 4 here, or I can simply say 10. So range, that means it will create a list for me that has 10 dimensions, and it will put index into each block of that dimension. That's what it's doing. Let me run this again. You see, it will repeat this process in 10 times. Can you see? The first time he runs the process, I is 1 that time. I is 0 that time. He prints 0. He go over it again. I is already 2, or already 1. He printed 1. He go over it again. I is already 2. He printed 2. Now the question is, how does he know that I is now 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Let me use this for us to really see what is happening. Let me say range of 10, and print it out. You see, it's a list. Let's wait for it to run. Yeah. Let me list it out. I don't like the way you give me here. Coming. Let me list it as a list. List. Bracket open. Bracket close. Yes. This is what happened. I just convert that range to a list. You see that in this answer he gave me the same thing as the variable I declare up like this in a form of list, but this one contains name of cities, while this one contains index 4 all to 9. When you count all of them, they have range of 10. Now, when you loop through this range, which is what you do here, it will loop through the first item in the list and print it out. The second item in the list follow like that. So that's what happened here. He declared a range here, a list, then he started looping using I to represent every element in that range. So the first element is 0, he prints it out. You go to the second element, which is 1, he printed it out, and so on and so forth. So we can do the same thing for the city I declare above. Let's go. For city, we cannot give it a name. No, as I lecture, one of the acceptable way
I
of
will come
declaring
and watch
variable,
sleep.
your variable must be reasonable. So for city
okay,
in cities,
that's no problem.
for city in cities, for cities in cities, print city. Let's see. So what this code will do for us, it will go from, okay, every city in the city that has been declared here, print it out. So it will look for each of the cities and print it. So it's a repetition. Let's see what will happen. Yes. See, the first city in that city is Ikeja, followed by Ibadan, followed by Abuja and Lagos. You see, immediately you get to Lagos, it stops because there's no any other city again. So that is looping. Note the convention for declaring looping in Python. It's very simple. It's one of the simplest language. Say city in city. So it's like just speaking English. So now within the block of this for loop, you can perform any operation. You can perform any operation. So as we deeper into Python, you will see us using this a lot. In fact, it's one of the core concepts of programming and of data science as we continue. So let me go into another subtopic, which is for loop variables. What are for loop variables? For loop variables are like these cities, as you can see. It's a variable and it works just exactly like every other normal variable. So that's why I say note that variable use in a for loop,
I will complete it. Don't worry.
It's just you can mute yourself. Oh. Note that the variable used in a for loop is just a normal variable and still exists after the loop has completed. So with the final value given to the letter to that variable. So let's look at another thing here. You know, I declare city in this variable here. You know, I can call it. It's just like every other normal variable. So if I say city, it will give me Lagos because that's the last value we have in that list. So you can call, you see, give me Lagos to tell you that variable that you use like a normal variable declare elsewhere, so which can be accessed in any place in your code, and the value that variable we have will be the value of the last iteration you have, so which in this case is Lagos. So I want us to note that very well. So for loop and range function, I think I have talked about that. So I will still talk about it more in a complex way. So range, a loop can be used to iterate over any list of value in Python. By now, we know what list it means. So far, we have considered only list, but we could also write a loop that performs a calculation, a specified number of times by using the range function. Let's consider an example where we have a for loop with value with value as the loop variable and range as the connection. What happens when we print the value at each iteration? We do something similar up. So, but I will still do that now. Let's say you have for J in range 10 or 5. Let me use 5 so that it won't take more space. Now, I want you to do this performance. You see now, there's an indentation. I want you to multiply my J times 2. So I will say result or response equals to, so you can write expression in the block of your for loop equals to J multiplied by 2. And you can now say print response. So you see, I'm now performing an operation in my loop now, and it will do it 5 times for me. So let me see what will be the result. So you can guess what the result will be, because it will start from 0. 0 multiplied by 2 is 0. Okay, sorry, I have a syntax error, and it's because I am calling a function as if I'm calling a variable. So I've corrected it now. Let me run it again. So now you see the first item in this range is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. As you can see, that's the first iteration you make. Second, the next item in that range is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. That's why it's giving us this. Then another one is the next iteration is the next item in that is in the range we have 0, 1. Now we now have 2. 2 times 2 is 4. While the next one is 3. So that's how the thing gets calculated. Now let me reformat this answer so that we can see another way of writing this. let me format it in a way that will be more reasonable. So I will have my index, and the index will be the J, that's our index, so that we can see. Then after processing, the result will be this. Don't mind this expression I'm writing now. I will still come back to that now later. So now let me see with the results. Now for index 0, when you multiply index 0 by 2, it gives you 0. When you multiply index 1 by 2, it gives you 2. When you multiply index 2 by 2, it gives you 4. Index 3 by 2, it gives you 6. Index 4 by... So you see now, this is how the operation was run. See, repetition was made how many times? 5 times. Because we declare it to be 5. 5 elements is in that range. So that is how for loop work in Python programming language. Yes, I would like to dabble more into range. If I want my range to start from a particular number, it is possible. So let me say I want to declare a raw variable. Let me just call it raw variable here, and I say range of, I want that range to start from 1, and it should have 10 items. So let me see what will happen when I print, when I list it. Let me list that range. Okay, let me just run this, then I will call it again. Let me insert another code here. Now, let me list the range by calling list function. So you can read more about this list. So it's a new empty list, iteratable, new list initialized to be iteratable on item. So that is this function. You can read more on it in Google. So let me call raw on it. It will now list what is inside my range. You see now, my range is starting from 1 instead of 0 because I specify 1 for the starting point. So range function takes starting point and ending point. So let's note that point. So if you count this now, we have 10 elements. Sorry, we have 9 elements because we have declared that it should start from 1. So you omitted 0. So if I want it to be still 10, I can just say 11. So it depends on your use case. Let's note that very well. So now it will get me all to 10 now. You see? So that is on range. You can read more about it on Google. So we have like 5 minutes more. So let me go to other things. So looping over the length of list using index value. So we can loop over the length of a list using the index value. Now, what am I saying here? Let's say for I, okay, let me declare 0. That's a variable. And I'll say for I for I less than, we still come back to this, less than length of cities Don't forget we have cities variable up there. Print I. Print I. Print I. Then increment I. Say I equals to I plus 1. So I increment I so that I can be changing. Let's see what will happen. Let's see the result of this. I'm expecting 0, 1, 4. Okay. Okay. I'm having an error here. It's because I have to declare it like an expression. So do it like this. Let's see the result. Oh, coming. Okay. Oh, I miss it. Okay. Let me do this. For I in 10, let me see something. Print I, let me see. Type of experience not achievable. Okay. I'm gone. Now, for I in range 10, this should work for me. Okay, good. So now what it did is doing now is I here. If I put my eye to be, let me see something so that we can see how it is different. And I want it to start the first element from 2, and it will print that I, what I represent up here, it will print it here, then it will add 1 to it. Then it will go all over again. Let's see. Then I will explain. You see now? Say for I in this, I think I'm having a mistake. But what is doing here? Let me see. Gone. Okay. Yeah, now you see that we have, once you get here, I is already taking 1. Now, from this now, he add 1 to it. What, remember that the first I in this range is 0. He add 1 to it, he prints it out. He give me another next I, which is 1. He add 1 to it, he give me 2. So that is how iteration work, and you can use indels in using your iteration. So the question is, why bother looping over a list by index value when we can loop over it directly? A list. Let's declare a new variable. Let's use now a station name. Stations. The station we have list. We have various stations. We have BM01, comma. We have BM02, comma. So this method is what we'll be using mostly without an index. BM 03, comma, BM04, comma, BM05. Sorry, 05, BM05. So I can run this. So that's my variable. Let me insert another code. So I can say for each of the variable, give me the index, give me the name of that variable with a for loop. So I can say for station in. So you see, in the word in is just like speaking English that, oh, for all the variable in this also thing, give it out to me. So Python in its own wisdom will look through the connection, and every element in that connection, it will work on it and give you the result based on your code, based on what you specify in the block. So for station in stations, so here I'm not using any index. For station in stations, I can say print. Then I will format my printing so that it will come out in a way we can look at it. And this is the way I will format it. This formatting string in Python. So I need my variable, which is index. I declare a variable by using this curly brace, and the variable here now is station. So let me say index of this. Let me see it will work. Coming this of this. Then say station. That's station one. Let me see what will be the answer. There's no error. Oh, I know. Want to use index. Let me see. Okay, there's still error. But let me just print in another way the station this. Okay, let's see what the answer will be. So now you see it's looping through all the stations. So this is station BM01, station BM02, station BM03, station BM04, station BM05. So that is how for loop work. You see, just say station in stations, then print this. So now another thing you can do, you can concatenate, you can do a lot of operation within the block. Now, outside the block, let me do something. I want to explain something here to tell you that anything outside the block, it will not be repeated. It's only code within the block that will be repeated. Let me print end of loop. End of loop. So let me run this. You will see that it played end of loop only once. Why? Because end of loop is outside the indentation of the for loop. In another word, end of loop here is not in the block of the repetition. And to make a code to be in the block of the repetition, it has to be indebted like this. So now let me do something. If I just indent this by just a space, you will see what will happen now. As it's printing, each one is printing end of loop. I hope we understand now. So, but I didn't want it like that. I want it to tell me if my loop has completed. You see now? So when we are writing for loop, let's be careful of our indentation. It's very, very important. And it's not only in for loop, even when you are defining classes, which we will still talk about. Indentation is very important in Python. So in some other programming language, they may end it like in Python, JavaScript. It will end with curly brace. So they will declare it like this. Within the curly brace is the block. So, but in Python, it's not like that. It's indentation. So let me cancel this. Now, let's go to the next statement, which is next topic, which is conditional statements. In this, we want to make computer to be able to reason like human being. Let me just put it like that. We want to enable our system to be able to take decision based on some particular condition. So, in taking decision, one of the basic conditional statements we use in Python is if statement. If, just like that. But let me write a code to make it more explanative. Let me have a variable called temperature. Temperature equals to 20 or 23. I can say if temperature is greater than 23, or let me use 20, it's greater than 20. Now, here comes another block. You see, net note, it gives me indentation immediately because everything I write now is based on this block of if statement. So this is a simple conditional statement. If temperature is greater than 20, print temperature greater than 20. So let's run it. Now, yes, the condition is true. And that's why you run the block of code below. If the condition given here is not true, then we will not run the code below. Now, let me give the temperature to be 3. And you will see that we will not have any result because the temperature is 13. Let me give it 13. Because temperature, you see, we don't have any results because temperature here is not greater than 20. But let me change it to 333 or 1333. You see, it will tell me that temperature is greater than 20. So this is a simple conditional statement with if statement. So now, let me go into another thing before I go into operational. Okay, let me just go to operational comparison operators in Python and Boolean values. In writing conditions, we use an operator called comparison operators. And in Python, we have these comparison operators, as you can see here. we have less than with this sign, less than. In mathematics, is represented like this, so it's the same thing. Now, in Python, we have less than or equal to be this. In mathematics, we write it like this, but there's no way you can type this type of thing on your computer keyboard. So we represent it like this in Python. While equals to is represented with two equal signs. While in mathematics, it's just one. If you use one equal sign in Python, you are assigning a value. It's not equals to. So if you want to use equals to, you use two equal signs like this. Now, also for greater than or equals to, we use this sign, greater than and equals to, which is like this in mathematics. So for greater than, we use this. Now, for not equal to, we use this sign, which in mathematics is just this sign like this. So please let's know this. We'll be using it a lot in our code. Now, let's make use of some of these operators. We still have our temperature. Let me call it temperature. That's the variable. Now, I can use one of these operators by saying if temperature is greater than or equals to 68 colon, then block print yes, it work. Yes, it work. Or test. Yes, it will print it because why? My temperature is declared to be 133. So it's greater than 68. So it will print this. What of if it is 133 that I put here? 133. Let me see. You see that it still print. Yes, it's still print test. Or let me say, let me change this to yes so I can make it some sense. It will still print yes. Why? Because temperature here is greater than or equals to. Let us not forget. It's either if it is greater than or is equals to that value. So this condition stated here is true. So that's why he printed this. What of if the condition is not true? And we want computer to take another direction if the condition is not true. So that is when if else and else comes in. So we want to look at the compound conditioning now. Now let's try something interesting. Let's recall our cities variable, cities. Print it out so we can see it. So we still have these cities. So I can say, let me install another one. So I can say that I want it to loop. Let me not combine for now. We'll still combine them together later. I want it to look at all these elements and say if let me declare a variable as index equals to 0. Now say if index is less than length of cities, length of cities, then print that city. We can print that city. If that means that city is inside that city, if the index is less than the length. Now, how can we print the cities? You can say cities. Remember what we learned last week? Index. You call the address of that city with this. So let's run this and let's see the result. Now, it prints Ikeja for me. I think I have to do something. Yeah. Yes, it prints Ikeja because my index here is 0 and it is less than the length of the city. It is less than the length of the city. So that's why it prints Ikeja. Now, if I put 1 here, let's see what will happen. You print Ibadan for me, you see, because 1 is less than the length of the city. What if I put 10? Yes, I didn't see any answer because 10 is greater than the length of the city. So that's one use case. Really enjoy this. Most times we combine for looping and condition together. We combine looping and condition together. So one of the things we can do here, let me move forward. I will still come back to it so that I won't miss something. Another way of doing conditioning is using logical operators. So the basic logical operators that we have in Python is not, and or. Not is just a negation operator. So if you have false, not of false is true. Why not of true is false? It's just a negation, opposite, black and white, just a negation and opposite direction. Anytime you use not. So and the code, the command is just not, not. Well, when you use and to compare two variables, two entities, the first entity S, for that condition to be true, this truth table must be obeyed. If S is false and Y is false, if you say Y and S, it must be false. Now, if S is false and Y is true, if you say S and Y, it must be false because one of them is false. So if S is true and Y also is true, it must still be false. For them to be true, they must both be true. Please note it very well because we use it a lot in programming. So if S is true and Y is true, then the whole thing is true. Let's know that very well. Opposite is or. Once one of them is true, then the whole of them is true. Or. So if S is false and Y is false, it's still false. If S is false and Y is true, it's true. So if one of them is true, all is true. So the same thing applies to this column. If S is true and Y is false, it must be true. And if both of them are true, it's still true. So there are various applications, use cases for these comparison operators, which we will be using a lot in this course by God's grace. So let's note it. Now let's apply some of these things. Let me think of an application, a simple application to test all these things that we are saying. I think the first one I want to do is let me have two variables. Variable one, let me make it 34. Variable 2, let me make it 56. Now let me test several operations. Say if variable 1 is greater than variable 2, then let me declare another variable, variable 3. Then this variable 3, let me initialize it to 0. Give it a tab. Then I can say variable 1 plus variable 2 or equals to variable 3, and say later print addition operation. Let me format it. Addition of one variable 1 and variable 2 equals to the answer, which is variable 3. Let me see how does this work. Now, you see, I didn't see any answer because variable 1 is not greater than variable 2. So this condition is not. Now, let me put it else. So I'm now going to, if this is not true, if this first condition is not true, try the next condition. So else if, let me copy this because I want to be lazy now and because of time. Try this for me. I want to know, instead of variable 1, now be variable 2 to variable 1. And let me copy this block. Interpretation, very important. So I want to do subtraction here. Subtract minus, let me put a space, minus, so that you can see it clearly. So let's see which of the condition will be true. Yes, you see now, just for explanation purpose, variable 1, which is 34, is not greater than variable 2. So this condition is not fulfilled. So all the code under this block is omitted, is ignored because this condition is not fulfilled. So it tests another condition, which is variable 2 greater than variable 1. And this condition is fulfilled. Then it carry out a negative operation on either subtraction on this, and it gives us the answer. So you see now, because this condition is true, you run all these code. Now, what of, let's say, let me modify this a bit. 78. If variable 2, let me put it something that will not make it true. And else, I want to use, you see how I'm combining my condition now? Else, that one, this else take any condition. I will explain later. Just print no condition is true. No condition is true. It's true. Let's see. Oh, because there's still a condition that is true. Variable 2 is greater than. No, let me use less than so that. So I want the two conditions will not be true so that I can print it. See now. Now, just for explanation purpose, you can see that this condition is not true based on the variable we have on ground now. So he omitted this block of code. He shift to this condition, he will test this condition and see if it is true. He tests it and it's discovered that this condition also is not true. So he omitted this block of code. Then, because the no condition stated is true, he just print out this. So if the preceding condition is not true, the else statement, if you put it in your code, it will be the result. It will print the result to else because no condition is true. So you can have several conditions. Imagine you are doing back computation and you want to calculate your data northing and data easting. You know, we will have to test. After, if not because of time, we will have do something like that. You will have to test which quadrant does this change in data easting, the change in bearing between a line fall to. You have to use this type of condition. So please let's note that. If I still have time today, I will go to that back computation. We just do a little. We declare two stations having S and Y. So, and that reminds me, there is another data structure that is very important for us as a geospatial, as a geomatician, and that is tuple. So I forget that last week. Tuple is just, let me declare a variable b2 equals to, instead of using list like this, you use bracket. This is a tuple. Tuple cannot be modified, it cannot be tampered with like list. So that's why it's less used. So you can declare something like this. So see, this is tuple, and if you check the type, let me check the type of B1, you see, it tell you that it's a tuple. You see, this is a tuple. Please, let's read more about it. We'll be using it as a surveyor and geomaticians. So now, for the little time we left for us, let's quickly combine both for loop and conditional statement together. Now, let's remember we have cities. I want to do something here. Let me call back my cities. I can add, let me append. Don't forget what we learned last week. Append more cities. Let me append more cities here. Which city again? So can we say that place is a city? Okay. So let's append that. So I've append that. So let me call back my cities again. Cities. I have less time. So you see, it has, yes. So it has been added. Now let me add these pieces of code to combine for loop and conditional statements. So say for looking for use case for let me look for if let me declare I to be an index. So I'll now say if I is less than length of cities, okay. I think I've gotten a use case now. So let me say for city, for I in range of length of cities, length of cities. Now, I will now put a conditional statement. If I is less than length of cities, I will frame something here. If I is less than length of cities, I'm coming, print cities with that I index. Now, I want to cancel out something here. I want to declare range of 10. We all know that our cities is not all to 10 in number. So let's see what will happen with this code. Now, you see that you only print the range at which I is present in cities. Now, let me do something to combine something else. If this condition is not fulfilled, if that above condition is not true, I want you to print index no print. Let me use a formatting here. Love that. Make me present my work very neatly. Index this is not in the city. It's not in the cities. Index I. Don't forget, I declare my I here. So I now test I if it is within the range of the city, within the length of the city. If it is within the length of the city, so print this, which I can still reformat like this. Control S, F, format, say city, say index, or let me just say this is I, and put it in a narrow form, then cities, so you can see it clearly. Now, let me run this to see what the result will be. Now, you see now, you have a beautiful result here. In the 0, which is among the range of 10, is in the city. And we know that length of the city is still within that 0, so he printed it out. You see, from there's 5 that are not in the city. You see, he did not print them out. So they fall into this category, into this S category. You see how we make a complex decision with our code here. So these are the things we can do, and I combine for and if statement together to get for a particular use case. As we continue in this course, we'll be using some basic examples, some real world examples to buttress what we are learning. And don't let us forget what we learned from week 1 up to today, because we are going to be using these in subsequent courses. And also, it's a language. We have to understand it to be able to write a code that is reasonable, that can do that can solve some particular problem. So we need the knowledge from week 1 up to today and every other week that we'll be using. So that is for today's class. Please, we have less than 1 minute. I don't know if there's any question. Any question? Okay. We don't have much people joining today. Any question?
No, I'm not sure. I think we are done for today. So
Okay.
I'll just do the video and put it by God grace within the week. It's like some were logged out because of internet connection.
Oh, yeah. Okay, no problem.
God bless
Okay, sir. So we see you next week.
you. Yeah, by God grace.